Hello there, welcome to my weekly energy reading for the week beginning the 26th of July 2021. My name's Karen from KarenTurpin.com, and I thought I would just share with you this week a few of my thoughts about what I see happening out there in the world and, the micro and the macro of all of that. So firstly, clearly, things are intense in the world right now. Certainly they seem to be that way from where I'm looking at them. I'm in Sydney, Australia, and we've had a lot of big protests over the weekend. A lot of people stood up for their rights to freedom and sovereignty, and that's happening all around the world. I've seen reports from France and Italy, and, so many countries are having these literal uprising of the people. There's a surge of energy of people standing up, saying that they want to be free, they want to be sovereign, they don't want to be controlled, they don't want to be locked down, they don't want to be put under house arrest when they're innocent, they've done nothing wrong, and they don't want to be part of a medical experiment that they don't consent to, and tracked and traced, and on and on and on this goes. So you know that that's all happening. It's probably happening around you too. And I find it fascinating as well that in recent weeks, when I do watch the TV, I just watch it once a day, because I feel that it's always best to know what your opponent is next planning to do, what their next move is going to be. So I do look at the TV just to see what they're saying next, because we know that they always let you know what their next move is going to be. And so we hear these scary words thrown around, like, I'm even wondering if I should say them. Maybe I won't say them, because censoring is so rife. I've had videos censored before because I happened to say the C word. So, in terms of this virus, hopefully I won't get censored for saying that word. In any case, I'm going to watch my words and say that I do watch the TV once a night or evening to hear what they're next saying. And they throw around some really scary words. But in recent weeks, I've noticed that every now and again, the truth seems to leak out, and then it's quickly covered up with another sentence. So I have a special ear for hearing a kind of mismatched note or something. The odd words that trip out is like my ears prick up, and I always rewind and have a listen to again. Fascinating to watch the body language that goes with it, and noticing as well. I'm a hypnotherapist, and it's interesting to notice how they're using hypnotic language in some of the reports, and they're using like hypnotic commands that really put the words in to the people that are listening, if you're not aware. And I've noticed this happening more and more in recent weeks. I've also noticed that some of these people that are speaking the narrative are actually giving out information in a tiny microbyte, and then they're layering something quickly over the top so that you don't quite notice it. Now, I heard kind of on the psychic airwaves, as you might say, that the mainstream have been told what information now needs to start leaking out. And when I heard that, it did give me a little bit of hope, to be honest, that we were getting a little bit closer towards the end of this, because I know from what I see, my perspective is that the cracks are starting to appear. And there was a metaphor somewhere, I think it came from, I don't know, it was an ancient Japanese or Chinese metaphor, something about when the pot gets broken, the gap in the crack opens up more and the light shines through. Words to that effect. If you know where that really comes from, please let me know, because I'd like to not butcher it like I just did then. But in any case, what I do feel is what we're seeing right now is that the light is shining through now much more brightly. The cracks in the story are starting to be more and more and more and more visible. They're tripping over the words. The truth words are sneaking in every now and again. However, I do see those scary words that they like to use as part of their agenda they are being thrown around more as well. And this, I've probably used this analogy before, that when you try to trap a rat in the corner of the room, it fights even harder. And again, I feel that this is what we're seeing currently. They are fighting harder and harder to try to maintain their control, their power. They are power hungry people in terms of control, in terms of money, all of these things, that we need to live our lives with. We need our businesses, we need our livelihoods, we need freedom, we need breath. Crikey, they're even trying to control our breath these days, which is really bad news. That just goes to show that, the psychopaths that we're dealing with here. But it's a few of them that are in control, and sure, they've got their minions, and there's a lot of puppets out there, but there's more of us. You only need to look at the uprising of humanity to see how many more of us that there are. So have faith. The light is won. It just hasn't landed here yet. So I noticed as well these floods in China and Germany. And I thought that that was interesting because, all of this pandemic stuff is meant to have come out of China, out of their labs there. They've been accused of cyber attacks and all kinds of things. And, they want to control the world, apparently, China do. And I thought that that was interesting, that Germany are flooded at the moment, because in World War II, it was Germany that wanted to control everything with their Nazi agenda. And so I kind of look at the two and I think, are they actually dissimilar? Are we looking at a timeline that they're trying to reactivate? Well, in fact, they have reactivated it, because we are in World War III. It just looks different. They're not dropping bombs. They're kind of dropping jabs and things. So I kind of looked at the floods and I thought, well, isn't that interesting that China and Germany, is this a karmic thing? Is this a karmic, divine retribution kind of thing, where this flood washes through to wash it all away? Remembering, of course, that Atlantis, the power hungry in Atlantis, and how the waters came and washed that away. And actually, of Lemuria as well, the waters came. And I kind of thought, isn't that interesting? Even in terms of the Bible story about the great flood and how it washed away, all of that darkness, and the people in the ark were saved. So my mind kind of pondered around all of that. And I thought that that was interesting to notice that. So I don't have a definitive answer, but I was very interested to see the similarities in that. And particularly when we think about Germany, and we know how they walked people willingly. No, I wouldn't say willingly, let's be honest, but they walked people into those extermination chambers and into the camps. And many of those people, that tried to hide were dobbed in by their so-called friends and neighbors, who had then swapped their allegiance to the government and decided to dob people in instead of allow them their freedom and sovereignty, and kind of see some similarities there. And so I wonder, of our friends and families, of our acquaintances, of our neighbors, what side are they on? And it shouldn't be that we have sides. It shouldn't be that way at all. We should be connected, by the fact that we are all human, having a human experience, and connected through love, through the heart. But clearly that's not what we're seeing here. And you've probably heard me talk before about this separation of timelines, this almost dividing of the experience here. And so I wonder, through our actions, actually, I don't wonder, I feel that I know, certainly my opinion anyway, we choose which timeline we're on, and we pledge allegiance to something depending on our actions and our choices. And, if we decide to follow a particular pathway that is laid out to us by a government that are power hungry and want to control, and if we willingly choose that pathway, well, then that's the timeline that we're choosing, which from my perspective, I would say is it looks like it's definitely a recreation, a repeating timeline of the World War II and the Nazi scenario. And remember that those Nazi scientists that did the eugenics programs and all of that, they moved to America. You know, they are the grandfathers of these people that are putting all these things forward for us to choose if we want to right now. And so we have choice, and everybody should have choice. So if that's the pathway that you're choosing, well, then good luck to you. But if you choose the other pathway, then you should have the right to choose that as well. And of course, that's what all of these people have been standing up for their rights in recent times. So what happens then when part of our family choose one timeline and the other part of the family choose the other timeline? Well, I guess we'll see, because I do feel that we're moving to that point where it all begins to play out. And I would say that within the next, well, probably we're getting close to that time now. So any time, I would say within the next 5 or 6 months, things will start to play out very clearly that will show which timeline people have chosen to be on, because this is soul's consciousness having this experience in this reality, and they've chosen a particular pathway where they're going. It's a little bit like being at the train station, and some people get on one train that goes that way and others get on that train and it goes that way. And so that's our free choice, right? So I think that we will begin to see where this train is going within the next 5, 6 months, and that will continue for a few years, and they'll be just on that path. That's where they're headed. And equally, others will be on the other train, and they'll be headed into, personally, what I feel is a much brighter, happier, healthier outcome. And so I wrote an article early in 2020, and I was referring back to an article that I'd written probably 10 years earlier, when I talked about this Armageddon timeline that I was seeing us aligned to. And it was one including terrorist threats and disease epidemics and food shortages and global warming and financial collapse and all of the very things that we're having and seeing right here, right now. And what I wrote in that article is that it's all designed to put us into fear, which is a very low vibration. It pulls us down. Now, the lowest vibration, using David Hawkins' scale of consciousness, is the lowest vibration is he's got there is level 20, and that's what I see as helpless and hopeless. And it's a very, very low vibration where there's depression and probably suicidal thoughts, because when you're hopeless and helpless, there's nothing, you know. And I do feel personally that this is what their agenda is designed to make people do, to get into that really low vibration. I mentioned this last week in my reading. And so I don't think that we have to go there. I think that we have a choice. And what I see on this other train track is those of us that are choosing. It's all about choice, free will and choice on this planet, apparently. And so as we choose a better way, could you imagine the power of our consciousness, what we could begin to create? Because personally, I think, actually, let me correct that word and say I feel, I sense, I perceive, I see that what we're looking at in terms of this pandemic agenda, it's starting to crumble. We can see the cracks. The people in power are tripping over their words. The words are coming out wrong. They're having to retract statements. They're having to correct it to line up with the narrative. And we're seeing more and more cracks in the framework. And it's becoming more and more evident. There are some people that are still in that phase of waking up and seeing it. And I think that that's a good thing. Probably that's why we've had to go this far to this point. But that's becoming more and more evident now. And we know that we have to tear things down before we can rebuild. And what I think, what I see, what I feel, what I sense is that all of these hundreds of thousands, perhaps millions of people that are standing up and rising up and protesting will be the people that begin to create and build the new on the new timeline. And it's like a wave, which is quite funny in a sense, because I'm talking about this flood in China and Germany and how it's so similar to Atlantis and Lemuria. And yet on the other side, we have this wave of humanity, this wave of consciousness of people waking up and wanting to live a better life. And that is a wave as well. And water is connected to emotion. And when you look at the power and the emotion that were in those protests yesterday, that is certainly a wave of emotional consciousness where people are standing up. And I see that as there was anger. There's anger there for sure. But as I mentioned last week, that's an active energy. And I see that as connected with the divine energy, divine masculine, you could say, to override the patriarchal domination, and the men standing up to protect their women and their children and bringing the heart back into family, which is why it's been so sad for so many of us that haven't been able to see our families for such a long time because of this house arrest that we've all been placed under. And so there's a lot of emotion in all of this, but there's heart in this. And I see, those that choose to align to this agenda, this train line, this control, domination, that's very, very fear-based. They're acting from fear. And the people on the other side are acting from heart. That's my perception. They're acting from heart. They want a better future. They want love. They want family. And that's how I see those two sides. Now, there's a lot of name calling between the two. Certainly coming from one side to the other, I see a lot of name calling, and that's not good, but that kind of happens. We're in that turbulent phase. I personally feel that the tide is turning, and we know that when the tide comes in and it's on the turn, the ocean gets choppy as it begins to, ebb or weave, whatever way it's doing it. And I think that we're in that turbulence right now. But I think it's really, really important that we maintain a high vibration. We keep our heart open. We keep visioning what we want to see, not what we don't want to see, because we know that wherever we place our attention, the energy flows there and it amplifies. So it's critical right now that we focus our attention on what we want to see, not what we don't want to see, because then we're going backwards into the other thing. Anyway, that's probably enough from me for today. Hopefully that this has helped lift your spirits a little bit, and I hope you don't feel alone. Please reach out to somebody if you're feeling very low, very sad and very alone. And even if you're not, reach out to people, because that's what we do best as human consciousness. Open your heart, connect with others, and sometimes just smile. Take off the bloody mask and smile at people. That's, our light is in our face. So anyway, I'll probably get charged or Facebook jailed for even suggesting that you should smile at someone. But there you go, the current times that we're in. Hope this has helped, and I'll see you next week. If you'd like to stay in touch with me, of course, DM me. I always read the DMs and I answer everybody. And find me in my Facebook group, Source Light Connection. And YouTube, Instagram, Karen Turpin Spiritual Coach. Find me, keep in touch, and I'll see you next week. Bye for now.